Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Maria Kleopa from Healthy Morning Revolution. I just wanted to come on here and chat for a second because on Friday, I recorded a YouTube posting called Running from Your Grief, What Are You Really Running From? And in that recording, I made reference to this beautiful book, The Monster at the End of the Book. Grover, I have to admit, was one of my first loves. It was Grover and it was Snoopy. And with Grover, what I so appreciated was how human Grover was and how his emotions were just right there. And he was so sweet and he was so gentle. And this book became one of my very favorite books as a child. In the last recording, what I said was that when we're running from our grief and we don't necessarily know what we're running from, we're just afraid of what it might bring up. It reminds me of this particular book. So I thought that I might do a resource review with this book and just basically read it to you because it's just such a beautiful book. I encourage you to get your own copy. And I encourage you to, as we're reading through the book, think about the monster at the end of the book as the grief, that the grief maybe is the monster that we're running from. So here we go. The monster at the end of this book, I'll do it like this as best I can. The monster at the end of the book, at the end of this book, starring lovable, furry old Grover, to which he says, "Hello, everybody." I don't do a great Grover voice, but there we are. So, The Monster at the End of the Book by John Stone, illustrated by Michael Smullen. This is a very dull page. What is on the next page? And there's Grover, just kind of ready to move on with the story. And then suddenly this. What did that say? On the first page, what did that say? Did that say there will be a monster at the end of this book? It did. Oh, I'm so scared of monsters. Listen, I have an idea. If you do not turn any pages, we will never get to the end of this book. And that is good, because there is a monster at the end of this book. So please, do not turn the page. And look at him just pleading with you not to turn the page. So how many of us in our grief, we just don't want to turn the page. We don't want to go there. And so it's please, let's just be quiet with it, right? You turned the page. Here's the picture. Maybe you do not understand. You see, turning the page will bring us to the end of this book. And there is a monster at the end of this book. But this will stop you from turning pages. See? I'm tying the pages together so you cannot. You turned another page. You do not know what you are doing to me. Now, stop turning pages. There. I, Grover, am nailing this page to the next one so that you will not be able to turn it, and we will not get any closer to the monster at the end of this book. All right. Do you know that every time you turn another page, you not only get us closer to the monster at the end of this book, but you make a terrible mess? And how many of us feel that about our grief? That anytime we're pushing away from the grief, or we're trying to move towards it and we're kind of doing this dance with it, that we're making a mess of things. It's because grief is very naturally chaotic. So I just want to reassure you that grief is chaotic and that we maybe don't know what we're doing. But that doesn't mean that we don't continue to find what the truth of it is. So back to Grover and his journey here. This will stop you from turning pages, a heavy, thick, solid, strong brick wall. I would just like to see you try to turn this page. And how many of us build heavy, thick walls that are all about our grief avoidance, that will block us from feeling anything that is connected with our grief journey, right? And there you see your brick wall down. Do you know that you are very strong? Now let's think about that for a second. Do you know that you're very strong? Do you know that anything that would come up in your grief journey, you are more than capable of handling? It's a powerful question, isn't it? And how we answer that is really important. And sometimes the reality is we don't feel strong. In fact, most of the times in our grief journey, we don't feel strong. But is there a possibility that with support, with the right support, we would feel strong and we would feel empowered to find what's true in our grief journey? So here we are. The next page is the end of this book, and there is a monster at the end of this book. Oh, I am so scared. Please do not turn the page. Please, please, please. You can see how he's just sweating it out, and he just really does not want us to turn the page. And there we are. Well, look at that. This is the end of the furry old Grover and the monster at the end of this book. And you were so scared. The end. I told you and told you there was nothing to be afraid of. So how true is that? That when we actually do turn towards our grief and lean in on our grief and lean on our grief, how what we discover is the essence and the truth of who we are. That is part of the purpose of the grief journey. And I just love this about Grover, that it's just furry Grover is the monster at the end of the book. The truth is the grief that we're running away from, that's the grief that will get us through this. Grief is always meant to be a journey. It was never meant to be a place that you get stuck in. And so our willingness to journey through it to the end is the key to living a happy life, to finding where the relationship is now and releasing all the pain. Going into the pain is what will release it. And that's what we're looking to do as we go on the grief journey. And my favorite part, this last one. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Well, here's the truth. There's nothing to be embarrassed by because we live in a culture of buried and carried grief. We live in a culture that would freely avoid our grief and in fact encourages you to do so by forcing you to go back to work when you're not quite ready to do so, by asking you, are you back to your old self? When the truth is there's no such thing as going back to your old self, that is encouraging you to find closure. And closure is the last thing that you want to do because your grief is guiding you truly to recognize that closure is not what's being asked for here. So if you're not sure about any of this, if anything that I've said here gives questions or leads you to questions, please feel free to write the questions down in the comment section here, and I will be happy to answer those questions. I collect the questions and then answer them in turn at the Healthy Mourning Revolution Radio, which is the podcast. I will put the link to any questions or to any answers along with my reply to the questions. In the meantime, I invite you to come and visit us at healthymourning.com if you need more support. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the bell that will make sure that you're notified every time we put up a new video. And if this has been helpful to you, then I invite you to please like it and share it. That's how we keep getting the word out. We're all about revolutionizing the way we all think about grief and mourning so that collectively we create what I call a compassionate grief community worldwide, because that's really what we all need more than anything else right now. We need to have people who understand how to support us as we're walking our grief journey. Much love to you. Until next time, namaste.